Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation and 2025. It's top 10 season, so today I'm counting down my picks for the top 10 DC Multiverse figures of 2024. First, a few parameters. It should go without saying I'm only going to be including figures that I personally own. Because of that, my list might look different than yours. On that note, certain figures like the Christopher Reeve Superman that came out really late / really early, I'm not going to be including. Those exist in this weird kind of gray area, but don't worry, I'll circle back around to them next time. I'm also not going to be including any figures of Batman himself. He's going to be getting his own list. On that note, I'm also only going to be including one version of a particular character. That way the list doesn't have 3 or 4 Supermans or Green Lanterns or something like that. Lastly, to make life easy, if it's a 7-inch scale McFarlane DC figure, it's fair game. DC Multiverse, McFarlane Digital, Page Punchers. As long as it's 7-inch scale, it could have a place on this list. With all that housekeeping out of the way, let's dig in. Number 10. Dawn of DC Red Hood. If you watched my original video on this, you'd know that I love the sculpted and painted detail. I particularly like the metallic mask. While this might not be my preferred Red Hood design, I do appreciate Jason Todd's growth as a character, and with the exception of head articulation being hindered by the hood, I thought this was a well-executed figure. You might also remember I was originally really harsh on this because I thought that McFarlane screwed up the accessories. In fact, I ended up making a follow-up video correcting myself. Now, while I still don't love the design, I do really love this figure, and it serves as a very solid addition to the Batman family. Number 9. Cyborg Superman. Similar to Red Hood, this isn't my preferred Cyborg Superman design, but it looks great. In a year when it feels like so many DC Multiverse figures are repaints, this is a 100% new sculpt, and even has a lot of extra paint detail. It didn't come with any accessories, but he is a pretty big chunky figure, and I had loads of fun doing various head and part swaps. With a year of very questionable Superman figures, I'm still hoping for that classic Hank Henshaw, but in the meantime, this is a super addition to my Superman shelf. Number 8. The Dark Side Mega Fig. This figure was branded as DC Classic and is just oozing with vintage superpowers goodness. I particularly appreciated the alternate Omega Beam head, and while I do wish that the cape had been optional, I do like the fact that it's a bendy wire. Otherwise, the only thing that really held this figure back was how easily it fell apart. With slightly better quality control, it probably would have been slightly higher on the list. Number 7. The Platinum Edition Dark Knight Trilogy Catwoman. This is another figure that could have very easily been higher on the list. She's a new sculpt with a relatively good likeness, has the added benefit of thigh cut, and came with 6 accessories, including not just alternate hands, but Martha Wayne's pearl necklace and Batman's shattered mask. The only reason that she's this low on the list is because she's a hard-to-get Platinum Edition, with your only other option being an equally expensive version with the Batpod, but that one doesn't have the cool cat ears, nor the other accessories. Anne Hathaway can steal my heart, but on this list she can only steal the number 7 spot. Number 6. Topping the bottom of the list is Two-Face from Batman Forever. If the Anne Hathaway Catwoman likeness was near perfect, this one is spot on. Both the Tommy Lee Jones and Rick Baker makeup effects have been perfectly executed, and McFarlane did not skimp on the paint applications. I think I'd be willing to go so far as to say this is the best painted DC Multiverse figure I've ever seen. He does share some reuse with the Aaron Eckhart Two-Face, but honestly it makes complete sense here, and I absolutely love how they executed the coin flipping effect. There are a couple of missed paint opportunities, like his steel-toed shoe or the silver on the back of his glove. I do also think it's a bummer he only comes with a pair of extra hands, but until we get a classic comic book version, this is the Harvey Dent that I'm flipping for. Before we move into the top 5, if you're enjoying this video so far, do me a favor and give it a like. Number 5. Robin from Batman Forever. 2024 was a great year for Robin figures, and I never even got around to reviewing this one. Choosing just one for this list was really hard. I love the traditional comic colors on the vampire version, and also how you could use his hands with other Robin figures. On the subject of hands, Rebirth was a great value with lots of extras, and the Page Puncher's Damien was pretty much everything I could have wanted from that version of the character. Well, except for hands. Ultimately though, this was the one I kept coming back to. The sculpted detail is a near-perfect recreation of the costume as it appeared in the movie, and the likeness to Chris O'Donnell is really solid. I also just had a lot of fun posing, and which for an acrobatic character is something you want. The only thing holding him back is the shade of red and green that they used, and the lack of a metallic finish. Coming back to hands again, and I really appreciate all the extras. Not only were they great for Robin, but they could also be used on Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, and George Clooney versions of Batman. That just adds a lot of value to the whole set. We can debate on how good of a Robin Chris O'Donnell was in Batman Forever, but as a Robin figure, this is the best one that McFarlane gave us all year. Here's hoping 2025 gives us a DC Multiverse version of this guy. Number 4, the McFarlane Digital Silver Age Joker. This is pretty much the Joker figure I've been waiting for. I have minor nitpicks like the shade of purple or not painting the playing cards, but overall this is everything I have wanted for a classic Joker figure. With accessories like his cane, playing cards, and a Joker fish, he's got pretty much everything you could need, and if you could only ever own one McFarlane Joker, this one's gonna put a pretty big smile on your face. Number 3, Page Puncher's Brainiac. This is one that I am certain none of you saw coming. For me, it really all boiled down to playability and value. For one thing, you could use this figure as Brainiac in his more robot form, but pairing it with another Brainiac figure, and it also serves as some great Brainiac drones. The best part is that you can mix and match the configuration of all the different tentacles and limbs, so if you wanted to army build them, each one of your drones would be unique. Couple that with a really creepy, cool Platinum Edition, and even though I know this figure won't make a lot of people's lists, it's just way too much fun not to include here. Number 2, the Collector Edition Huntress. Aside from finally being another female character for the shelf, this one comes down to playability too. Not only does Helena have a great wired cape, which I'm happy to see becoming the standard, she also has extra hands and her signature crossbow, but more importantly, this is the first instance of McFarlane giving us interchangeable faces. 2 extra faces, in fact. While this costume might not be everyone's preferred Huntress, or for that matter even 100% accurate to that version, I do think it's important to give this figure its much deserved flowers for opening that door. In fact, I like it so much I even broke down and ordered the Platinum Edition from the aftermarket. Before revealing my top pick, I want to show off a couple of honorable mentions, starting with Penguin. I love this figure, and I really struggled with having him on the actual top 10 list. But for everything working in his favor, there were a few key things working against him. The main problem I have being that $30 collector edition price point. With half the figure being reused from the $25 Arkham City Penguin, it just doesn't make sense. In that vein, with no accessories but a reused umbrella and just 2 alternate hands, the value just doesn't really feel like it's there. Combined with some minor nitpicks like the neon orange vest or the lack of pinstripes, and as much as I wanted to include this guy in the top 10, I do have to cry foul. Another hard cut for me was the Kilowog Kyle Rayner 2-pack. Kyle's my favorite Lantern, and this Kilowog is really impressive. I particularly appreciate the sculpted and painted detail of his pig-like features, but as happy as I am with this set, ultimately Kilowog was a bit too McFarlaneized for my taste, leastways compared to another Megafig like Darkseid, which just kinda stepped out of the comic. I love the characters, and I love the set, but they just didn't quite make the cut. Lastly, and I want to give a quick honorable mention to Captain Carrot. This is one of those gray area figures that came out late 2023, early 2024, but regardless of the year, it's just a fun, absurd figure. McFarlane really committed to this guy, with a lack of carrots being the only thing that held him back. And the number 1 DC Multiverse figure of 2024 is Jonah Hex and the General. Granted, this is a set, but what a set it is. I'm not even that into Jonah Hex, and I still have to tip my hat to what McFarlane did here. This horse continues to be one of the company's best ideas, and Jonah himself is packed with great accessories, including the return of firearms to the line. I do think he would have benefited from an alternate pair of fists, but between the pea shooter, stabbies, and cloth goods coat, this figure's riding pretty high. Couple that with some great sculpted and painted detail, and it's no wonder why this set is my pick for the best DC Multiverse of the year. How does your list compare with mine? Sound off and share it in the comments below, and keep your eyes peeled for more top 10 and ranking lists in the days and weeks ahead. For top 10 lists of years past, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice, have fun, and Happy New Year!